Hello and welcome to today's episode of Simple Business Dream Life with me, Emma Hine. I'm going to start today's episode a little differently because I'm not going to open with a framework, a strategy, or a list of things to do. I'm going to actually tell you something that happened to me just last week, something that stopped me in my tracks and made me realize I'd been doing the very thing I help my clients to stop doing. So it all started at an event I went to last week. And somewhere in that room, listening to the conversations, listening to the speakers, something happened around me. Something landed. Now, it wasn't something new, it was something I already knew. Something I've said out loud probably a million times to the people I work with. But this time I heard it differently. This time it was being said to me. This time it landed for me. I've been playing small, not in an obvious way, not in a way that maybe you can spot from the outside, but in a sneaky way. The way that looks like I made a choice. The way that wears the clothes of simplicity and tension and alignment. But underneath all of that is just fear. And I hadn't seen it. Now, before I go any further, I want to say something about simplicity because I talk about it all of the time and I never want it to be misunderstood. Simplicity is not the same as small. Simplicity is not about making things smaller to make them easier. When I talk about simplifying your business, I mean cutting out what doesn't move you forward, not cutting out what does but scares you. Those are two completely different things. And for a while, I'd been confusing the two. I'd been using simplicity as the reason to stay comfortable when actually what I needed to do was use it as the launch pad to go bigger. That is what I teach my clients to do. Simplicity is the strategy that gets you too big, not the excuse to stay small and comfortable. And even though I speak about this every single day, I'd lost sight of that for a while. And if I'm honest, probably for longer than I'd like to admit. I'd been telling myself that staying where I was a conscious choice, that it was intentional, that I was living in alignment with the life I wanted. And absolutely parts of that were true and still are true. But parts of it were just a very convincing story I'd been telling myself because I didn't want to have to face the thing that was underneath. What was that thing? I'm going to tell you because today's episode is really raw. So I had a seven-figure business in the past. I built it, I ran it. I know what it takes. And I made a decision to walk away from it because it wasn't right for me anymore. That was absolutely the right decision. I stand by it completely. And if I was there again today, I'd make the exact same decision. But somewhere along the way, that decision turned into a different story, a quieter story, one that kept reminding me, but you're not there anymore, Emma. You're earlier in this journey than many of the people you help, than many of the people that you really want to help, the people that you really can help. So, but why would these people want to invest in somebody who is financially not where they are? And I let that story run away with me for way too long. But the truth is, I'm not starting from scratch. I never was. I'm starting from everything I know, everything I learned, everything I experienced. I've got over 30 years' experience. It comes from having built something at that level and understanding from the inside what works and what doesn't. From having the hard decisions and living the consequences and coming out the other side with a clarity you simply cannot buy. That's not a weakness. That's exactly what makes me the right person to help the people I help. I've lived it and I know what works and what doesn't work. But I wasn't seeing it that way. I was seeing the gap between where I am now financially and where I was back then in that seven-figure business. And I was measuring myself against that and finding myself lacking, assuming that people would see me as lacking. Now I teach this stuff. I help people with this every single day, and yet it's still got me. It's still got me. Why? Because it gets everyone. And that's the point of this. These stories don't care how experienced you are, or how much you know, or how many other people you've helped to see through this exact thing. They find the gap and they move on in. And if you're not paying attention, they start running the show without you even realizing it. I also realised something else in that room. I hadn't been dreaming. And I teach people to dream all of the time. I'm a massive believer in dreaming big. But to help you understand why I'd done that, I want to share something that I know I've spoken about before. Back in 2023, I lost my daughter, Becky. Now, I'm not going to dress that up or find a gentle way to say it because, frankly, there isn't one. One day life was normal, and then 6 weeks later, she was gone. And for a long time after, the business, the plans, the ambitions, all of it stopped mattering in the way it used to. And that was right. That was exactly as it should have been. That was exactly as it needed to be. I needed time to just get through the day. And I gave myself that time. But what I didn't notice happening is that the grief became my reason to stay small. Not consciously, not deliberately, but slowly and quietly. The not being ready, the not pushing forward, the not dreaming became wrapped up in the loss until I couldn't really tell where one ended and the other began. And I kept telling myself, it's intentional. I told myself I was choosing simplicity, choosing presence, choosing a quieter life. And parts of that were and are true. But parts of it were just the most human thing in the world. Staying still because moving forward felt like leaving her behind. And that hurt. Now, Becky was ambitious. She was fiercely, unapologetically ambitious. She used to say to me, I'll be a millionaire one day, Mum. And I believed her. Every single time she said it, I believed her. She was proud of me for building this business. Slightly bemused that I walked away from a seven-figure business, but she got it. She was so proud when I became a best-selling author. She would have had absolutely no patience for me playing small at this stage. And 3 years on, I'm sat here and I'm learning something. I'm going to grieve Becky forever. That will never change, and I don't want it to. But the grief doesn't have to stop me living my dreams. It shouldn't stop me living my dreams. But I don't want to move on. I'll never move on. But I do have to keep moving. I have to live because I've been given that honour. Becky hasn't. And staying small isn't honouring her. Staying small is just a fear with a very convincing excuse. Back in 2022, I created a 5-year plan. It was bold, specific, and exciting. But I stopped looking at it after I lost her. I told myself that things had changed, that it wasn't relevant anymore. But last week, after that event, I picked it up again. And I realised I'm nearly 4 years into that plan. The big, bold version of what I'm building, it still exists. I just haven't moved it forwards. But it's still possible. In the 18 months left I have of that plan, I can still make it happen. I can move fast and make it happen. But I needed to be ready. And the moment I saw that clearly, I felt the shift. I felt like me again, a different version of me, not the me that's been carefully managing and carefully getting on with it. The me that builds things, the me that thinks big and backs herself, the me that is the CEO of a business that is growing and will change lives. I've been wearing the wrong shoes for far too long. And last week, as tough as it was, I finally decided it was time to take them off. So that's what I did. I made decisions I'd been putting off. I invested in myself and in my business in a way I'd been hesitating over. I stopped waiting to feel ready and just decided it was time to be ready. Because that's the thing. Ready is a decision. It's not a feeling. It's you deciding now is the time. So what does that actually mean in practice? Because I don't want this just to be a story that makes you feel something for a few minutes and then it fades away. I want you to think about your own version of this because we all have one. Where are you wearing the wrong shoes right now? Where are you telling yourself you're making a conscious choice when actually you're just more comfortable where you are than where you're willing to go to? Where have you stopped dreaming because dreaming feels dangerous, presumptuous, or just too far away from where you are right now? And what excuses are you dressing up as reasons? I'm not ready yet. I need more time. I need more proof. I need to be further along before I can think bigger. What if it doesn't work? What if I invest in myself and it doesn't pay off? What if I back myself and I'm wrong? Those thoughts aren't strategy, they are fear, and I absolutely get it. But they're going to keep you in the wrong shoes indefinitely if you let them. So let's look at what stepping into the CEO version of yourself actually looks like. It looks like making the plan. Not the plan for this month or the next quarter, the real dream plan, the 3-year plan, the 5-year plan, the version of your business that makes you feel slightly uncomfortable because it's so much bigger than where you are right now. Write it down, make it real. Stop waiting until you feel ready to dream that big. It looks like making decisions from the future version of yourself, not from where you are now. Where you're faced with a question, I want you to ask yourself, what would the CEO of this business I'm building to do here? What decision would they make? It looks like investing in yourself before you feel like you've earned it, because you're never going to feel like you've earned it. The feeling doesn't come before the investment, it comes because of the investment. And it looks like paying attention to the stories you're telling yourself, like really paying attention, because the sneaky ones, the ones dressed up as intention and alignment and conscious choice, those are the ones that are going to cost you the most. So let's paint a picture, not of where you are now, of where you're going. Because I think we're sometimes so deep in the doing, so focused on the next month, the next launch, the next client, that we forget to feel what we're actually building towards. And when you can't feel it, the fear always wins. The excuses always sound more reasonable than the dream. So I want you to close your eyes for a second if you can, or just stay with me. Picture the business you're actually building, not the safe version, not the one that feels achievable right now, the real dream one, the one that makes you feel slightly breathless when you let yourself think about it. For me, that picture looks a bit like this. I'm creating a legacy, a way to help young entrepreneurs, people like Becky, start and build their dream business. I have a business that supports that without consuming me because I want my dream life too. I travel, I have fun. I wake up every single day grateful for the life I've built, grateful for the life that I've got. I have a small but mighty team, a team I love like family, and together we change lives. That's what I'm building, and I almost talk myself out of pursuing it. Now tell me yours. What does the business you're actually building look like? Not the next 90 days, the real dream, the legacy, the thing that makes getting up in the morning feel like a privilege rather than an obligation. Because that version of your business, it exists. It's not fantasy. It's a plan that just hasn't been written yet, or one that's been sitting dusty somewhere waiting for you to be brave enough to pick it back up, just like I did this week. And the one thing, the only thing standing between you and it is the story you're telling yourself about why you're not ready yet. You absolutely are ready. You've always been ready. You're just wearing the wrong shoes. So this week I want you to do one thing. Write the dream, write the plan. Not the safe one, the real one. The bold, uncomfortable version that makes your stomach flip a little when you read it back. And then make one decision from the future version of yourself, not from where you are now, from where you're going. Because you're building a business to just get through the months. You're not doing that. What you need to be doing is building something that matters, something that's going to outlast you, something that will change lives, including your own. Dream big enough to honour that and leave those old shoes at the door. Thank you for listening. I will see you next time.